Good evening, comrades, and welcome to New Hampshire Left News. Let's start ourselves off with some headlines. Well, what better way to begin this video series than with the Robert Fisher scandal? For those of you who don't know, a two-term Republican from the Lakes region has been outed as the founder of the misogynist subreddit Red Pill, where he has made such illuminating statements as, "I guess I've never met an older lady I consider to have a better personality. I find women's personalities in general to be lackluster and boring, serving little purpose in my day-to-day life, so I usually only compare body types. You sound so charming." This is why feminism pushes to increase alimony and child support. In the USA, where feminism is completely unchecked, women can meet another man and profit from having two providers instead of one. Alimony and child support will ensure her lifestyle isn't the one that suffers. According to Fisher, women are both the most unreasonable, feeble creatures and scheming sociopaths. The only risk a woman has for leaving her husband is if she's too old and ugly to hook another guy. But even then, the amount of money she can get from her ex-husband is almost criminal. Family court man! Away! Understand that in the old days, women were not brought up the way they are today. Before feminism, there was less freedom, and therefore it was not necessary to teach women consequence. Consequence was strictly a man's game. Feminism took the lid off Pandora's box, but the mothers and the daughters of those mothers never internalized, learned, or passed down the concept of responsibility for their freedoms, only the freedom itself. Women today lack the discipline for marriage. What the hell does that even mean? Women face consequences every day for their most neutral actions, like existing. It is wall-to-wall arseholes out there, reports Penny, a 31-year-old lawyer. She is stunned by how hard it is to meet suitable men willing to commit. I'm horrified by the number of gorgeous, independent, and successful women my age who can't meet a decent man. Sometimes people call me an asshole. They say what I do is wrong or evil towards women. You know what I always say back? Well, if they stopped rewarding my behavior with sex, I probably wouldn't do it. So the successful, intelligent, and beautiful lawyer can't keep an amazing guy like you because she gives you what you want? They've absolutely done this to themselves. I feel zero regret or shame pumping and dumping. I'm gonna say it. Rape isn't an absolute bad, because the rapist, I think, probably likes it a lot. I think he'd say it's quite good, really. No comment necessary. So obviously, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, Robbie. Can I call you Robbie? I've been there. You were definitely a nerd in high school. Girls probably didn't pay attention to you. Look at me at 15. I'm all Nintendo DS and short shorts. You took the blue pill route or whatever and got burned. I've been cheated on too. Doesn't feel great. That doesn't justify or excuse this route you've taken. You took the pain one person inflicted on you and ran with it into narcissistic delusions. One does not make utilitarian arguments for rape because they had a bad relationship experience, or paranoidly film your bedroom to avoid false rape accusations. You and people like you, whether you know it or not, are the reasons why feminism is necessary. And as to this strange notion you have that women are boring, have you ever actually talked to a woman? You know, like a person? She doesn't need to give a fuck about special relativity to be interesting. I'll give you a personal example. As a leftist, the Russian Revolution gets brought up a lot. I find it quite interesting. My girlfriend does not. She prefers to focus on the real material tasks in front of her. That's not boring, it's actually more useful. If you treat your relationships like conquests, every woman is going to look like a future colony. And who the hell wants to be with the conquistador of logic? Where you could just treat her like the full human that she is. You obsess over false rape accusations in family court, while women are sexually abused by their partners every single day. I personally do not know a single woman who has not been sexually harassed, and often it's far fucking worse. Your behavior, one that reduces women down to a sentient fleshlight, is the exact kind of patriarchy that feminism attempts to resist. You should resign, take a deep breath, look in the mirror, and ask, is it me? Hey, look, it is me, normal guy. I too have a truck in which I haul many heavy things. I use two-wheeled transportation devices, and always dreamed of going to New Zealand to have communion with my fellow white settlers. Decidedly not our boy Scott Brown was tapped for ambassadorship to New Zealand last week. These ambassadorships being political gifts as opposed to meaningful geopolitical choices, Brown was quoted as saying he wanted to go to New Zealand to cycle. New Zealand paper The Dominion cited Brown's support of torture and the ongoing Fox News sexual harassment scandal as reasons he should stay in the States. In addition to our very own Governor Sununu, he subscribes to the whole Massachusetts is busing in liberals to commit voter fraud in New Hampshire theory. Along with Ayott's big salary from Murdoch and Bill O'Reilly's $25 million payout, the motto of the ruling class is clearly, always fail upwards. A special Senate election is coming up for District 16 after Scott McGilvery passed away. The highlighted contender is Republican David Booten. The Democratic candidates are Kevin Kavanaugh and Jim Normand. As with all politics, it's hard to pin people down on specific policy positions. Defeating the opioid crisis, reducing healthcare costs, and fighting for the working class are not actually policy proposals. But we'll see. If you live in District 16, which is Dunbarton, Bow, Hooksett, Candia, and Manchester Wards 1, 2, and 12, the primary is on June 6th and the general is on July 25th. To end this on a happy-ish note, a Keene hospital is including Cuddling as part of their program to help newborns with heroin withdrawal symptoms. Linda Glasschroeder, a nurse, is quoted as saying, "I talk to them, sometimes I sing to them. If they fall asleep, I often hum softly. I often tell them that they're doing a good job and that they will feel better soon." Linda is also very compassionate to the mothers. I think that's one of the biggest barriers is that they feel like they're going to be judged. We have to provide a safe and comfortable environment for them, and that's really our biggest goal, because the more supported they feel, the better success they'll have for themselves and as parents. Mothers who are not struggling with addiction also appreciate the Cuddle program. It gives them the chance to check on their other kids or just take a break. Elizabeth Ropp is an acupuncturist trying to pass HB 575. The technique helps with withdrawal symptoms and anxiety, which are leading causes of relapse. It's a cheap, effective way to combat the symptoms of addiction. A complete no-brainer. Full story on the Cuddling by Callie Ginter of the Keene Sentinel, and please read Elizabeth Ropp's op-ed in the Concord Monitor. Also, call your rep and tell them to support HB 575. Chris DiLoreto, a friend of mine, is running for library trustee in the town of Peterborough. He is one of the most thoughtful and committed people I've met living in New Hampshire. He deserves our support. His campaign is framed in the way these things ought to be framed. Not in the negative, as he writes, "I am not running because I believe anyone on the current team is guilty of poor management or performance, but in the positive. As a socialist, the operating philosophy of the public library, free and open access to all, existing solely for the public good, with no provisions for profit and private gain, promoting knowledge, imparting skills, and facilitating the distribution of public resources, is one I believe should be applied to all of society." Chris applies our vision as leftists, that the world ought to be governed by the principle of human need as opposed to private gain. For those of you who are residents of Peterborough, the election is on May 9th. For everyone else, if you are interested in donating or helping out, you can find him here, or contribute via PayPal through jmonaco@gmail.com. All relevant links are in the description as well. Let's do another scandal. This one's a little bit aged, but the trial is moving forward. Kyle Tasker, the 3-term Republican House rep, was picked up by police while trying to solicit sex from a 14-year-old girl who turned out to be an undercover cop. Following his arrest, his house was searched, and many things were found, including numerous loaded weapons located strategically throughout the house behind doors and entryways into each room, enormous amounts of controlled substances that appeared to be part of the distribution operation, and my personal favorite, a list of potential customers, and that list may include names of current elected officials. Even state reps need a little relaxation. Kyle appeared to be a consistent conservative voice in the State House, achieving above 90% ratings from the American Conservative Union, New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, and the Republican Alliance, and was a member of the Committee of Children and Family Law. Well, what a surprise! Kyle has pleaded guilty to charges that will land him between 3 and 10 years in New Hampshire State Prison, but the real question is, with Kyle gone, which brave libertarian has stepped up to provide the State House with its much-needed marijuana? If there's any stories you'd like me to include in next week's roundup, you can contact me on Twitter, email, Facebook, and it'll all be on the credits. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.